Thank you, and it is wonderful to see everyone once again as we reach what is really the end of a chapter in this series of classes we have been having on Madame Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine. Though as we know, every ending is also a beginning. So while we may be coming to the ending of the first stanza, we will be continuing next time as we move on to the second stanza and into various other aspects of theosophical inquiry. The online class, the online study class of the Secret Doctrine continues to be a wide success, with students joining us, young people particularly joining us from countries all over the world, coming together in the spirit of unity. And so we are very glad to have a global reach with students from Russia, the Philippines, Singapore, Moldova, Belarus, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, Canada, the UK, Australia, the USA, Bolivia, Nigeria, India, Japan, Pakistan, Lebanon, Spain, Norway, Mexico, Germany, Estonia, Indonesia, Finland, Turkey, Greece, the Netherlands, Kazakhstan, Sri Lanka, Brazil, Mexico, Italy, Colombia, and Portugal. So a huge international reach with more than 6,000 views on the online video classes, which are available in both Russian and English. We have, up until this point, worked through the prologue and the first 8 slokas of the first stanza of the Secret Doctrine, which brings us today to the final the final sloka of stanza 1. We will be exploring the 9th stanza, which states, "But where was the Dangma when the Alaya of the universe was in paramartha and the great wheel was anupadaka?" So, as we work through this, I encourage you to reflect on what has been covered so far, on what has come before this final sloka. And I would like to also extend my thanks both to all the participants who are joining us today, also to the translators, Daria Gazanova, Tatiana Kostenko, and all other members of the Adamant Lodge of the Theosophical Society in Russia. This wouldn't be possible without you. I'd also like to thank the technical team for their support in making this possible. And so with that, I will hand over the floor to the presenters of today's webinar, to Vladimir Yary, the president of the Adamant Lodge and head of the Moscow School of Theosophy, and to Eugenia Shebernikova, the project coordinator of the Theosophy Foundation. Thank you very much.
Здравствуйте, дорогие друзья.
Good afternoon, dear friends. Let us start today, as usual, with the wisdom of the day by Blavatsky. The pearl of the day goes like this: all has an end and will away. Truth alone is immortal and lives forever. I think that the meaning here is obvious. It has to do with the definition of temporary and eternal. Things that are temporary have a certain cycle, and this cycle always represents itself in different planes. As for the planes of not real is represented by the truth, and the actual life here on earth is something that is quite of elusive nature. So this idea is expressed in the ninth stanza, in the ninth shloka of the first stanza. Let us take a look at nidans that can also reveal a lot. These nidans can also give us some food for thought and tell us about the most important ideas of the day and how exactly these ideas are related with the ninth shloka of this stanza. So let's take a look. The century is the century of the white dragon. The year is the year of the black tiger. Month is also the one of the black tiger. The week is a red tiger week. And we have a yellow snake day. So 3 tigers coming together, and they are located in the century of the white dragon. What does it tell us about this situation? 2 tigers show the essence of this year. It also has to do with the year representation and with the month representation. Year, as we know, is bigger than a month. It contains 12 months, but a month is the concentration of the most important events for this period. And this concentration of these 3 tigers here tells us a lot. A tiger alone has a certain characteristic of being irrational, yet the concentration and attention are the things we have to keep in mind when we live through this month. We need to be able to concentrate on the most important things, and the most important thing is the eternity. That's why we should be thinking about eternity. Only when we do that, we become immortal. And that's the very idea of immortality. Only when we are attentive and concentrated enough, we can achieve immortality. But what about the red tiger? What does it represent? The black tiger, as we know, the water is the main symbol, or akasha. So waters of life expressed metaphorically. This is how you can consider this element of water in this context. As for the red tiger, it represents fire. The most concentrated type of energy is the energy that is represented by the red tigers, and it is concentrated in 4 planetary bodies: the Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. So if the tiger by itself stands for a concentration, and this is exactly the concentration that appears before something new appears on Earth. In this very state of high concentration, the highest point is located in the cycle. And thus, this red tiger has to spurn a spiral life cycle. So it's very important to notice that it is a spiral development rather than a cyclical one. So this is why it has 4 special sources, such as Mercury, Jupiter, that stands for purity and wisdom, then Venus, that stands for the purity of our thoughts, and Saturn, that represents the form of our thoughts. Tiger has this high concentration exactly for the purpose of giving birth to a new form of existence. So the new meaning, it takes on a new sequence in this spiral, which is going to be higher and more powerful than the previous one, meaning that the evolution gets a chance to untap its potential. As for the red tiger, stands for tension and concentration of spirits. So this is exactly what we are going to study today in the 9th shlok, or the first stanza. We are going to talk a lot about the definition of Alaya. We're going to talk about how Alaya of the great yoga can come together with the Alaya of the universe. A very important aspect here is something mentioned in Paramaya, which mentions the state of the absolute. So the stanza itself teaches us the following wisdom. But where was the Dharma when the Alaya of the universe was in paramartha and the great will was anupadaka? As of now, we find ourselves in the cycle of the tiger, which represents the highest concentration. So if we will find strength to be concentrated during this seminar, which is going to last for 2 hours, then it's going to be a very important step for us, meaning that our concentration and our ability to focus on the material, to focus on the meanings and ideas that are going to be delivered to you based on the stanza of the shloka that we're studying, it means that we are able to stay concentrated, and we're able to accumulate this tension within ourselves to give our intuition or our inner knowledge to manifest themselves, to show the new direction of our thoughts and to guide us. Thus, what we are doing now, we are trying to achieve the state of the creator. Or in other words, we are trying to become the one who is born without parents. This is a very special state. This is a state that we can develop within ourselves. And the red tiger gives us all the tools to do that. We can get rid of the klesha that we are finding ourselves in. And to do that, we need to show utmost concentration and focus. Only in this very special state, we're able to enter the new state. We are going to enter paramartha. Paramartha is the state of emptiness, of Alaya. This is a very special state. Yet, this state is an important aspect of what we are studying. Intuitively, we can sense how special this state is with the help of the Dangma eye, meaning that a person has a chance to sense these moments and to feel them. So the first stanza, and in the 9th shloka of this stanza, 9 is a very symbolical number, by the way. 9 stands for energy, transformation of the materia into the spiritual being. Thus, we are giving spirit to the materia. We are giving it new powers. And to do that, we need to be focused. We need to be disciplined. We need to be attentive. When we discipline our own mind, then we give ourselves tools to sense this emptiness, to experience this emptiness. And within this emptiness, we can feel our own rebirth. So we can give ourselves a birth without parents and just to become a creator. Just think about it, how special it is. The 9th shloka of the first stanza here we are. What can we do here? How can we define the absolute at this point? We are just aspects of the absolute, not the absolute itself. Yet, we do have the chance to enter the Alaya state. Yet, another important aspect to mention, when we talk about paramartha, then it is described as a single atom of the ether that by itself, that by its nature does not exist, yet it has a very special potential in it, the universe potential, the potential that can be untapped. This potential can be called Brahma. And the ninth Sloka tells us undoubtedly about the beginning of this area of potential that is of hierarchical nature. This is a new state of becoming born without parents. This is the first stage of consciousness of the absolute, of cognition of the absolute, which will allow us to become creators and to be creative, thus giving birth to ourselves, to create ourselves. And this is the very idea of this hierarchy. And this is the hierarchy of highest beings. Let us take a look at this hierarchy. It starts with the Dhyani nature, then Dhyani Buddha stage, then Manushya Buddha, Bodhisattva, and Manushya Buddha. This is the human soul. This is the hierarchy of self-born.
So we see that the person that aspires in their mind and that have their ability to self-develop, that person in their neurological meaning can become a Buddha on our earth, which means entering the state of paramartha. This state for a person is actually the state of nirvana. When everything goes back to its beginning, everyone who were in nirvana goes back, and everything goes from an atom to non-material atom, which means from being to non-being. This possibility exists for all of us. Overall, we can have an outcome here. Ninth Sloka actually says to us that everybody can become a perfect being, a perfection, and approach to the absolute. Everyone. This means that if a person has its personality awakened thanks to meditation and discipline, thanks to self-acception and acception of the hierarchical order, it is eternity in itself. If a person accepts this hierarchical beginning, they start the journey. This is the point. This is the point that helps us to find this journey. To find it, you go through the acceptance of the hierarchical beginning. You are collecting your intuitional knowledge and experience. You collect this experience in yourself. You are like a kind of a cup that collects all this knowledge. And you have, let's say, 68% of that. And there is only 32% left. And we approach our higher nature, another 2%. So we approach this level like in a pyramid, which is called a golden section. This is the middle way, or just a way, or journey that you started, and which means that you accepted a hierarchy, a self-born hierarchy that was born without parents. This is how your individuality are manifested. Now, confirming your individuality, which is a creative process, you are becoming a way, a journey. You are becoming a creator. You create. You see? Which means that the most important thing is an apprentice, and only after that, the teacher. I said after that, because every teacher learned something themselves earlier. And a student, what do they study? They try to understand the emptiness by feeling it with themselves. You see? They feel this emptiness by themselves. I never read that about feeling the emptiness by ourselves, but I understood that. They say, by studying ourselves, you will study the world. And that's how we feel this emptiness. When we fight against ignorance, we do that by understanding ourselves. That's how we try to destroy the ignorance. What is ignorance? It's darkness. It's darkness which is not transparent. You cannot go through it. You cannot see anything there. And light is, in its turn, knowledge, which means that by understanding yourself, we are sending a ray through this darkness. And this is what is going on in that journey. When you become the journey, you go to paramartha. You are entering the state of hierarchical beginning, and you are becoming just one link in a chain. And this link is eternal. I mentioned already fire tiger. It starts a spiral, not a circle, no, but a spiral. The spiral means tension of the mind and the spirit, and only in that state you can self-realize, and you can manifest the month and the year. By manifesting this year, we also see the knowledge of being. We are now in the century of White Dragon, and we are putting this year into this era and month. And that's how we approach the era of Aquarius. This gives the beginning to the month and the year of Black Tiger. But in its spirit, it's Red Tiger. And today we have the day of the yellow snake. As you can see on the screen, it's the snake of the earth, of the element of the earth. And it also shows us Bodhi element. Yellow dragon and yellow snake is on the yellow Buddha. You see, they are above the Buddhi nature. That's how we understand that the same nature is the nature of the snake, and it is the feminine symbol, and the male symbol is the dragon. That's how we understand the symbols, and they give the very important meaning. It will be able to manifest the spirit through the ray of Mars. The snake is under that ray, and it will be able to manifest the spirit of a warrior. You can call it quite simply by understanding the spirit. Spirit understanding, in one word. That's how we determine the middle point of the constellation. That we consider here, the constellation of the first fire, or the constellation of the Aries. We see again the yellow snake here. In the third cross, the black monkey, and in the fourth, the blue symbol. This cross of fire tiger with wild boar and the snake, we see the fourth point of this cross of fire tiger. In this state we are today. Now I would like to mention other things. This spirit understanding is the next step of fire tiger manifestation. Its next step, as Mahat made its steps. In the same way, this cross with its points, step by step, moves clockwise and goes to the next steps. We are living in the week of fire tiger, but the tiger has already made its step in the yellow snake. You see? And this shows us that this spirit understanding is a creative nature of a human being that we have to discover in ourselves, to discover this potentiality. That's how a conscious and intelligent human being is born. Such a human being is a creator, and they are born in its second born without parents. The first, when you're born the first time, you are born by your parents, and next time you are born in yourself. That's what we see in the 9th Sloka. And the combination of Nedans showed us what should we collect in ourselves. If we have a look at, for example, a dragon, we understand that it has anger in itself, and we should fight it with the opposites, with warmth, with kindness. Yellow snake is quite a tricky animal. It is treachy, and we can deal with it with our understanding of life. If you practice treachery, it will go back to you as a boomerang. So by living through our lives, we can deal with that. And speaking about monkey, it is a symbol of greed. So its greed also do not allow for the human beings to reborn. We see what happens in our society when people practice greed. And we can deal with it through fellowship, through fraternity. And the era of Aquarius allows us today to be in the state of fraternal relationships and fraternal feelings. In other words, the power of love, the power of cosmic magnet manifests in some community, in neighborhood, and in being able to care for others. And the most important thing is that it manifests in our care towards ourselves, being able to set yourselves high standards, not to allow others to enter your world, this greed and anger and other problems, in order to deal only for the greater and common good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for these kind words, for expressing these discoveries and nice ideas, for sharing them with us. We will not be able to read that in the work of Madame Blavatsky, but when we share our energies, when we are friends, when we have this opportunity to talk together about the same text, to be there, this experience can be transferred through simple ideas, through simple discoveries that can be named understandable, but which are very profound. I was very inspired that a creative person is without parents. We talked about the state in the Sloka. In Latin state, we are actually, this state is in Latin state in every person. So a person is without parents, but with this latent power. And it power awakens when a person starts thinking for themselves and starts create. I have a lot of questions actually, and actually we have received a lot of questions and doubts even from our listeners. They say that if we have seminars only twice a month, if we go through slokas, it seems a very slow process. In order to study the whole book, all 3 volumes, we will have to study it for 20 or 30 years. When will we start practice it? And today, actually, we received the answer. We can practice it every minute, every day. We can find the reason in this day, in this energy, in this moment, in this very moment, in order to start thinking consciously, rationally, to approach higher energies. This is practice. And when all of us are here in one concentration of one beam of the 4th concentration, which means it means a lot. Of course, you are there on the screen, but you help everyone to understand it better. which means that the reason which is behind all the free volumes is as well in every stanza, every sloka, and in every notion that means a consequence of ideas for every sloka. So we have unlimited opportunities to be better persons, to be tolerate, to carry this thought. We don't have to have special circumstances. No, we create our own circumstances right now in this very moment. And I strongly believe that this first part of the seminar is about this practice. It is very simple, but you can apply it only if you understand. And in order to understand, you have to know the reason. And in order to know the reason, you have to know the system. To do that, you have to understand the basics. And in the hidden doctrine, these basics are revealed.
We prepared some kind of visual materials for you. And what we did there, we tried to draw parallels there. First of all, we wanted to demonstrate key ideas of this shloka. We wanted to show you the main patterns there so that you could remember what the main concepts are. You know how important our imagination is. To develop your imagination, you have to, first of all, want to be pure. You need to look for the kindness, for the purity. You need to allow for this idea. You need to understand that this is something real. Then the kindness is there and it can become part of your life. The person who does not have enough imagination cannot understand what unity is, what fraternity is. This person struggles to understand how people can come together, be happy for each other in any moment of their lives. They cannot understand how talking to other people, being connected with other people can make one's happy. They cannot find this common ideas with other people that can make their lives better. So in the first book of the Secret Doctrine, despite the fact that the language there is quite abstract, and there are a lot of special terms there from the Sanskrit and from the Theosophical studies, yet this book is a certain mixture of the fundamental ideas, of the true ideas and knowledge that we receive throughout the evolution of the mankind. And all of this knowledge is concentrated in this book. To be able to understand all of that, the fundamentals and the patterns of this knowledge, you need to be free. You need to set yourself free of the common misconceptions. And if we develop our imagination, then we open a lot of new horizons for ourselves. We open new states for ourselves. And by doing that, you open yourself to knowledge. And this is exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to open your imagination. We're going to show you how imagination can help you to understand and interpret this shloka in different ways. We'll show you the main images of the shloka. We will give you these images for you to keep and develop further in your own way. When each and every of us develops these images further, we develop the theosophical knowledge. And this is exactly how community appears. We have a common idea that we develop, and this is the way we should work. When we work like that, each symbol, each cell, each part of this common picture is created with your efforts. And as a result, we come up with a matrix, the matrix of the images that we find ourselves in. This is the highest form of meditation. Here, an event can create new conditions, and these conditions make everything possible. This sets our imagination free. The fact that we have such seminars and that we're able to unite you with the help of very serious books, as the books of the Secret Doctrine, the fact that you open yourselves to this new knowledge, this is very important. This is the knowledge that existed before, the knowledge that already exists in this world. It's open to everyone. It doesn't matter if you are a theosophical researcher or not, if you are just thinking and pondering on those issues, this knowledge is always there, open for you. And what you can do, you can try to be part of it. You can try to focus on it and get some insights. What we're going to study today is the 9th Sloka of the first stanza. This is the end of the period of Pralaya that we were studying before. In the first, third, and second stanza, we talked about the Pralaya state. Now we're going to talk about a special state when the image of Pralaya will enter the special Manvantara area. This is the event that had an important impact on the consciousness of the mankind. And I mean all kinds of races and cultures. This huge influence is something that we are looking for in our lives, because all of us as humankind monads are united, and we were united before. The first stanza of the 9th Sloka. But where was the Dharma when the Alaya of the universe was in the paramartha and the great wheel was anupadaka? The first question that finishes the first stanza, that is, in the 9th Sloka of Dhyan stanza, the question begs itself. This is the question which will unfold in the subsequent shlokas of the stanza 2 and 3. Let us take a look at these questions. The first question of the 9th shloka goes like this: where was Dangma? The second question is, where were the builders? This is the second stanza of the first shloka. Where was the silence? The second stanza of the second shloka. And where was the hearing? 12th stanza of the second shloka. We are going to try to find a certain logics behind these questions. So we can see that in the third shlokas, we asked 4 questions. And as we can assume, these 3 shlokas redefine the 4 states, which are the basis for the manifestation of the 7 serpentary nature of the third shlokas and 4 questions. So if we are able to understand this sequence, we can also understand why the states of the unmanifested were described in such great detail. Only because they are the basis of the manifestation for all the underlying planes of being up to the dense state of physical form. As you can see, by studying the unmanifested state, we are able to understand the very nature of the manifested. If we understand that, and if we see reasons behind that, this is the basis we can build on to fight negative emotions and states within ourselves, shall they arise. And this is the very idea of this practice. The first question goes on describing the state of space from the first shloka. Where was the eye of the Dangma when the Alaya of the universe was in paramartha and the great will was anupadaka? To answer this question, Blavatsky gives a description of this space. which corresponds to the period when the eye of Dharma was in the stage of readiness to open. It means that it was not open, but it was ready to open. And this very state of being ready defined the ninth shloka. This is the key moment of the ninth shloka. This is the state of being ready to open. What is this state? This is the state of Alaya space, the soul of the universe, the single state of the universe, which was an absolute state of unity. Alaya itself is a special term. Blavatsky describes it as anima mundi, or the soul as the basis of everything. This is the soul, which is the foundation of everything, the soul of the world. Alaya, though eternal and unchangeable in its inner essence on planes unattainable for either man or the cosmic gods, here we're talking about the hierarchy, yet it changes during the active period of life in relation to the lower planes, including ours. What does it mean? It means that it is unchangeable and immutable, eternal, but yet it can change itself during the active period. Unmanifested Alaya, Alaya which is hidden in its very nature, cannot be understood either by man or the cosmic gods, is the state of the supreme being. This is a very special state hidden from others. When it starts manifesting itself, it enters the new stage, the stage of demonstrating and manifesting itself. Then this reason will become the reason of the active period of life in correspondence to our physical world. Why is it so? It is so since Alaya is personification of emptiness, and nevertheless it is the basis of every visible and invisible thing. It looks like this line contains a paradox and a contradiction, how things can be visible and invisible at the same time, provided this is emptiness that we're talking about. Yet if you know the trajectory of the solar universe appearing and of the cosmology nature, the nature of the sound, of the world, of speech, of human, of nature, and its essence, and if you add human feelings to that, only then you can understand that everything that I described started from the emptiness. It was this white disk which stood for nothing. It was there at the very beginning of the absolute state before Manvantara started. This is the state of the reflection of the absolute, the state where the movement starts. Alaya, as a personification of emptiness, shows us the nature of this reason, which will become the reason of every visible and invisible thing in the future. Alaya is eternal and unchangeable, meaning that it is something that manifests itself in every object of our world. In waters, in the moon, it is reflected there, yet Alaya is not reflected in dirty waters with no knowledge in them. Alaya can only manifest itself in the situation of the full balance, full purity, and calmness, thus the state of balance. This reflection of Alaya on lower planes is the reason of no reason of Alaya to appear. Alaya as a space represents this special state. This is a moon that can be reflected only in pure waters, and thus the universe and the earth will appear. The differentiation will start. This is why Alaya has a twofold, or rather a threefold meaning. In the Gotara system, the contemplative school of Malaya, Alaya is both the world soul and the higher self, ego, of an advanced adept. Here I would like to cite the Secret Doctrine. The one who is strong in yoga can at will, by meditation, introduce his Alaya into the true essence of being. And where does it lead? It leads to the purity, to the emptiness, to an absolutely pure world. But to do that, you need your will, a human will. And in this perturbation state, in this state of transformation, the process of returning to your eternal self takes place. You return to your own being, to the superior being. This is how Alaya goes back into the true essence of being, which is hidden for humans and for gods. It will remain hidden as long as we do not discover our creative being. Only then the creative being will become united with its surrounding. Till that moment, it is hidden and it's not manifested. Alaya can also be described as a pakhani state, which is a very subtle substance, something that eternal at the same time is or accommodates what is or is not a simple process. How you can at the same time accommodate what is and what is not, and something that possibly will or will not be, if the process is so simple. How is it possible? A simple process is a united process. A complicated process always implies different divisions. So this simple question, this is the answer to this question. Everything that exists and everything that does not exist and everything that accommodates and does not accommodate. Alaya is the indivisible cause, being uniform and at the same time being the cause and effect of the first. Paramartha. Paramartha itself, when Alaya was in Paramartha, in the unknowable Brahma, which is the perfect unity in itself. Paramartha is a perfect being or indivisible reason. Paramartha being the cause and the effect at the same time. Prakriti is the initial substance. It can also be described as Akasha or Imula Prakriti or Prakriti, which can stand for the nature itself, the beginning of the nature. That's why Blavatsky says that in this case, it's not right to say Prakriti, but it's right to call it the state of Alaya. Alaya is not the inconceivable Pralaya. So who was there at the beginning? Was Pralaya or was it Brahma? Brahma that does not begin the evolution himself and does not create it, but only reveals his various aspects. So let us take a look of different aspects that Brahma manifests and who starts the evolution. How, with the help of its aspects, it starts the evolution. The first aspect here is Prakriti. Prakriti is the aspect of Prahani, and them as two initial aspects are the one unknowable deity. This is one of the key moments of the ninth shloka. Then Blavatsky describes key concept in the ninth shloka. Here is an important term, paramahasya. Andam paidama It is the way it's pronounced in Tibetan. It is the same term as paramartha, or it can be translated as the absolute truth. And this is a very mystical term indeed. This is the absolute reality that is the contrast of the Pritisaki. What is a Pritisaki? This is the illusion that creates false conclusions. That's the way it sounds in Tibetan. A Samritisaki is the opposite of absolute reality. Then it is the reality which contains a lot of contradictory conclusions. This is the opposite of absolute reality, or paramartha, which is the absolute reality, meaning that there is the reality which defines the consequent realities of its divisions, meaning that paramartha state is a state of transformation, is a key state of transformation from the plane of unmanifested to the plane of manifested. Samriti Svatya contains the word Samriti, which is a separate word. It means a false assumption, the beginning of the false conclusion, or the paramartha, the opposite of absolute truth. How we can decipher this term? This is paramartha.
Or it's the consciousness that's analyzing itself. It is combined from parama and artha. It's understanding and knowledge. When parama and artha are combined, when we have this comprehension, we get paramartha satya, which is the absolute truth of reality. Nobody can achieve absolute comprehension before achieving paranirvana. And there are two enemies that actually determine this absolute knowledge in paranirvana. These two enemies are determined by many notions. Parakalpita, for example. Parakalpita is the delusion, understanding of illusionary nature of everything. And the second enemy is Paratantra, which is the state without existence, which exists only thanks to causal and relationship that must disappear as soon as the cause from which it derived is eliminated. In the same way as the flame, which is related to candle wick, if we destroy it or put it out, then the light of this candle will disappear. Alaya, this world soul, is the same as Akasha in its mystical meaning. Mula Prakriti in its essence, and it is the root of all things. Each individual soul corresponds to the world soul. And the soul is the conductor for manifesting the spirit, with these three being Trinity synthesized by life, which is nourishing them all, spirits, soul, and matter. All of them are conductors, spirit, soul, and matter. It is interesting that a person has no to unfold the veil of that. Only the liberated spirit can weakly comprehend the nature of the source from which it came and where it must return, which means that the liberated mind can understand the nature of the source or unveil the maximum number of veils in order to approach the reason of the absolute, or to return to get back in the end. Where does it go? It goes to this, to the third state, to awaken Mahatma, or the world mind, as the first aspect of the unchangeable absolute. The first aspect of this unchangeable absolute is the awakened Mahat. It cannot be the last. It's always the first. Spirit and matter, or Purusha and Prakriti, are the two primary aspects of the single, and they not having the second one. Matter is the conduct of spirit, and spirit is the conductor of another spirit. That's why they don't have the second one. That's why Madame Blavatsky says that Purusha and Prakriti not having the second one, but by combining them, they create the third one, or the awakened Mahat. You see, it's just amazing solution of this mystery. Why they do not have the second one? It's because when they are combined, they create the third one. The state of anupadaka, without parents or without ancestors, is a mythical idea that has several meanings in our philosophy. This name usually refers to different beings, Dhyan Kogans or Dhyan Buddhas. These beings mystically correspond to human Buddhas or to Manushi Buddhas, who are later designated in the same way as Anupadaka. And from the moment their personalities, they're immersed in their unified sixth and seventh principle, or Atma Buddhi, when they became diamond souls, Vajrasattvas, or full Mahatas. This state of combination of the 6 and 7 principles means the circumstances that opens the diamond soul through the comprehension and the full combination. In that case, we had Mahatma, a symbol of anupadaka in our evolution. The hierarchy of anupadaka is the highest level, and the lowest level of Manusha is Buddha. We saw that as it goes from the beginning to the last mythical plane. But even a spiritual person is anupadaka in its latent state. Anupadaka means without parents. The hidden Lord merged with the Absolute cannot have parents, since they are self-existence and the one with the universal spirit. It is called Svabhavat in its highest aspect. The universe in its formless, eternal or absolute state before it was put together by the builders means the great will was anupadaka, since the spirit has no parents, for it is one with the absolute. Dhyan Kogans are anupadaka, the 6th and 7th principles in person, as well as Atma Buddhi. We can also see an analogy with karma, which is 6th and 7th principles for a person. Karma is the law of retribution, cause and effect, moral causality. After each personality, nothing remains but its generated causes, which are indestructible, which means you cannot remove them from the universe until they pass into legitimate consequences and are erased by them. These causes, which have not been extinguished during the life of the person who gave birth to them, will follow him in their reincarnations to overtake him in the subsequent incarnation until harmony between effects and causes is fully established. You cannot take it out of the universe because it's indestructible. When this cause goes on, then it will be wiped out. How can we understand this harmony between causes and effects? Elena Rerich says, fiery purification gives a new direction to the flow of karma. If we take practical thought and apply it to the understanding of the key notions like Armamudha and to world soul, to cause and effects, and to karma, we can say the following. We can say that the release of fire should happen, and then we get 7, and then we will get 10, or revelation of fire, which means that the release of fire is symbolized by the number 7, and revelation of fire is symbolized by 10. It relates to its movement. Only through being released, you can start the movement. Only purified and released fire can give the new direction to karma. This is one of the key ideas of this sloka. The state of pralaya period of the sloka 9 corresponds to the 7th pralaya period. And at this moment in the history of the universe, the final purification is taking place, and the fire will begin to be released, or become 10, or create the new direction of future karma. This fire will start to be released and create a new direction. The sloka 9, stanza 1, together they give 10, which means that 10 is also key, not only 7. It is revelation or release of fire and the new direction of future karma for the whole humanity. At that moment, we get power and energy, and these things have life in themselves. Living beings, atoms, planets. It is interesting, curiously enough, that when new living beings appear, karma appears as well. Dharma is a very diverse notion. It cannot be translated to European languages. We can say that it is a factor of comprehension. It's a law, it's a norm, these symbols of karma. Its objective is to release all the living beings from karma. How can we support this dharma? Through Dhyan Kogans. Dhyan Kogans are the lords of the lights, the higher gods, the divine minds who have a duty to supervise the cosmos. And tiny Buddhas next in the hierarchy. Dhyani Pasha is the rope of Dhyani or spirits that bounds these notions of Dhyani Boots and Dhyani Kogans, and they give this push to them to achieve the unified state and to achieve the 7th state. Dhyani is one of the 6 paramitas in Buddhism, a state of immersion that elevates significantly above the plane of sensory perception. And contemplation of the 6 stages of Dhyani differ only in degrees of detachment between the personal ego and sensual life. Let's have a look at paramitas and how they are determined through 6 directions of the space. Paramita means transcendental perfection. The 6 paramitas are 6 interrelated actions that ferry to the other side of the ocean of existence, that is leading to liberation and enlightenment. These are liberating actions. Paramita are usually translated as perfection, which means parama the highest, the most distance, and therefore the main, primary, the most excellent. And parameter, we can say perfection. And we also can divide parameter into para and meter. Para means beyond, far shore, shore or border, and meter means that which has come or that which is going away. In that case, parameter means that which has gone beyond, that which has gone beyond or transcendental. This reading is used in a special translation of the text through the 6 paramartha state, or 6 interrelated actions that lead to release or to the state of 7 or 10. 6 parameters include generosity, giving or self-sacrifice. The first one starts from the sacrifice, from your readiness to give yourself entirely. If we have a look at that, try to understand the relations between paramitas, we will understand where to start our journey, where to start our day, our hour, every instant, from the readiness to give it all. And the second parameters goes through the state of readiness to make the sacrifice. And this is parameter of reasonable behavior or perfection of morality. And then it goes to the third parameter, patience. When the third parameters appears, the first, second, and the third states combine. The readiness to make this self-sacrifice, reasonable behavior and patience combine, and then we have power to experience joyful diligence. Patience manifests itself through joy. A person starts to work hard. That's how patience manifests, the joy of diligence and of work. And then all these 4 parameters are combined in ourselves. Only at that moment we can meditate, and we see it in the 5th parameter, or buddhi, or the 5th stage. These 5 states is the common structure or foundation. 5 principles, 5 parameters, or 5 steps to purification, 5 steps to liberation. They form the foundation of everything. Self-sacrifice, behavior, patience, joy, and meditation. Meditation is at the peak of hard work, at the summit of it, of our actions, of our reasonable behavior, at the peak, at the very peak of self-sacrifice, of your readiness to give everything. And only at that moment, the result comes forth, the 6th stage, or the 6 parameters, which is wisdom. At that very moment, when 5 parameters are purified or released, then a person becomes wisdom. We can see that through the planes here, how it appears. You see the first step and the first manifestation on the first plane, the only hierarchy of Dhyan Kogans, and this is the plane of mind and creativity. Let's have a look at the first one, and it's generosity. The sacrifice starts there. The reasonable behavior is on the plane of materials, and it's in the astral world which determines this behavior. Control or release of purity of your own feelings that will create a foundation for the reasonable behavior. On the physical plane, we have patience. Everyone among us goes through obstacles, and we develop patience. When we become really patient, then we achieve joyful diligence. You see, joyful diligence and reasonable behavior are on the same plane, but from different sides, which means that the hard work is related to the reasonable behavior. Meditation is on the same plane as generosity and self-sacrifice, as the one state. And we can say that generosity and your readiness to give everything is the real meditation. And it appears when 5 of these elements are combined, and we get back to the origin. We achieve wisdom and nirvana. The 6th parameter, wisdom, shows us another plane which corresponds to the state of nirvana.
Buddham Samsa Nikam names 10 perfections. He talks about Bharasa Paramiya. These are 10 parameters. Parameters, the first one of them is Dana Parami, which represents generosity and self-giving. It's very similar to the system we showed before in our 6 parameters system. The second one here is Sila Paramita, which stands for virtue, morality, and correct behavior. Before, we had reasonable behavior, but this time it's correct behavior. The third one is Nekha Parami, renunciation. The next one is Panaya Parami, which stands for wisdom and insight. Viriya Parami represents energy, diligence, and effort. The sixth one, Kunti Parami, stands for patience, tolerance, acceptance, and endurance. The seventh state is Satya Parami, truthfulness and honesty. And the eighth state is Atihana Parami, which shows determination. The ninth one is Metta Parami, which stands for benevolence, friendliness, and loving kindness. And the last one, Unkemha Parami, equanimity and serenity. If we trace the chain of how one element leads to the next one, so how the first one leads to the second one, and then the fourth one to the fifth, sixth, and seventh, when at the end we achieve the balance of serenity, then we can see, we can feel ourselves. What are the great achievements of these 10 parameters? How this revelation of the fire looks, which is the condition for showing your creative potential. First of all, this is self-sacrifice. This is the first condition. Only with self-sacrifice you can attain morale. You can do good things to others. Then you are able to renunciate yourself. You renunciate yourself. And on the basis of that, wisdom and insight appear. Then the next step is diligence and effort. You are happy to work hard. And as a result, you show your patience, your endurance, which become a very natural state of you. This is something that you are used to. You are now on the sixth stage of this system. where you have achieved patience, then you won't ever be able to be unfair. It's often the case that in this world now, a lot of people want to renunciate themselves from all of existing problems. They want to refrain from looking at the issues we have. So they just try to isolate themselves. They say that what is happening around is not my concern. I better distance myself from it. I better keep calm and live my own life. This is very important for this Chaparami, which is the movement of truthfulness and honesty. This is the stage where you are honest and fair. This is the stage that makes you a true soldier. You can take up your arms and fight for the good against the darkness. It is wrong to isolate yourself and to say no to the sense of honesty. This is a very wrong decision to take. The next step is determination. You take the decision and you show your determination. This is the very essence of the Athena Parami, and this is what allows you transition onto the next stage. You have already had 8 different states, 8 different parameters of the fire, and on the next stage you are able to show true benevolence, true friendliness, which allows you to go into the next stage, equanimity and serenity of inner calmness, because you are the superior one now. You are fair. You can see the truth. This is something you're dedicated to. You're honest with yourself. You are determined, and at the same time, you are friendly and benevolent. This is something that you carry and nurture in yourself. This is something that allows you to sacrifice yourself at any moment of your life. Now let's take a look at planes of being. I would like to talk to you about 10 paramis of the Pali definition. There is the first and the second book of the Secret Doctrine. There we explore the foundation of the world and the human nature, which are similar. We know that the first plane are the planes of unmanifested, then we have 4 planes of manifested, are lower planes, and the lowest plane we see here is our physical plane. Our physical plane cannot stop, because this is the origin of everything. This is the course of us to ascend. In this trajectory, you can see all the parami. First of all, this is the release of the fire, which represents generosity and self-sacrifice. The second one is virtue and morality. These are unmanifested planes, something that is happening inside you. The next one is renunciation. Generosity and self-giving, they are reflections of the absolute, which gets reflected in these planes. Then the next one, virtue and morality, appears as the reason of generosity, of self-giving, becoming a common good. Renunciation corresponds to the third aspect of the Awakened Mahat, which will be awakened when you renunciate yourself. The fourth one is wisdom and insight that can only appear on the plane of mind. This is the plane when Dangma opens its eye. This is the moment where wisdom and insight come into play. The next one is energy and effort. Energy and effort united in the Kaya Kohada trajectory. The next one is patience and acceptance. This is a very subtle plane of the ether beings. This is the plane that appears inside a human being. You tune your feelings and your sensations so that you can accept everything and everyone, which gives birth to the next stage, truthfulness and honesty. Please pay attention how this structure develops. First, we have manifested and unmanifested. The seventh is the plane where a human being is born. This is the stage of truthfulness and honesty, when you honestly tell yourself that you know nothing. This is the way for you to learn how ignorant you are. This is something that gives you the strength necessary to go into the next stage, which is determination. You took the decision and you decided to develop. And as a result, you achieve benevolence. Benevolence is achieved thanks to your determination, your energy, your patience, your virtue, and your wisdom. And all of those things coming together make you benevolent. The last stage is equanimity or serenity, meaning coming back to the initial wisdom and insight. Please pay attention that these two are located on the same level. Please pay attention to the way the system develops. Then I would like to share the next slide with you. We are going to talk about the plane of physical and how we move up. So here at the bottom, we have generosity and self-giving. This is the moment when you understand that you're honest with yourself. Then the second plane is virtue and morality. This is the moment when you accepted your feelings and your ignorance. Then you renunciate yourself. You understand the initial reason. You understand the reason for you to be creative. Mahat and Manas awaken within you. This is the connection with the absolute truth, which allows you to go into the next stage, wisdom or insight, the nirvana state. The next state we enter is the plane of spirit, which gives you strength and energy to go onto the next parama, which is patience and acceptance. Then the seventh one, which is a contrast to the physical plane. As you remember, the physical plane is the plane where we accept that we are ignorant. Then you move up and you can see that the seventh parameter is the very first reflection, namely truthfulness and honesty. The highest truth, absolute, stands here for the absolute truth. And then the eighth parameter appears, determination. Benevolence follows up next, something that we achieve through our patience and determination. And then at the end, you are able to enter the plane of serenity. Remember how we were talking about the foundation of the universe and its appearance to the physical plane, and now we did it the other way around. We talked about the physical plane, about the centrifugal force, which allowed us to go back to the same plane, the plane of mind and creativity, and the plane of serenity. The release of fire and its movement corresponds to 10 paramitas, where each paramita is painted as purification. When purification is achieved, equanimity, or going beyond to the other side, which is the side of a new direction of creating future karma, arises. This is the way the universe purifies itself, and this is the way a human being can purify himself. This is the moment where we arise. Before, we took a closer look at number 10. Before the moment, the description of the revelation or release of the fire appeared through the new prisma of karma. Let us take these 10 pyramids, and now we can see what the conditions are for this fire to be released or for this movement of purification to start. This is how we go beyond these borders. This is how we attain the state of serenity. This is how we go to the other side, to the side of the absolute, to the side of light. Thus, the new direction of a new karma appears. And at this point, we can talk about Dangma. Dangma is an enlightened soul who has attained perfect wisdom, or the highest level of renunciation of self. Here we can take a closer look at planes. Here we can see the plane of archetypes, which corresponds to the Dhyan Kogma, the Lords of Light, and superior, the Dhyani Buddha. This is the compassionate heart. Physical plan is the Manusha Buddha, human Buddhas. And the last one is Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva are those whose essence has become mind, or Bodhi, those who need only one manifestation to become a perfect Buddha, so to be able to enter Nirvana. Sattva is another important term for us to take a look at. Sattva stands for goodness, the same as sattva, or purity, one of the triangles or three divisions of the nature. This is the God's ether, the nature that exists, but you cannot say that it exists since it is an absolute or the absolute itself. The one ever-present reality is in the infinite world. The divine essence can be seen through its nature. One syllable, seven-sided, tells about the one unmanifested logos. Then we have three syllables, and the one sevenfold stars manifests itself in this single plane of mind and creativity, or in the second plane of the manifested. And then the next one is a triangle itself, a triangle that becomes a tetragrammaton and a course on the maternal material plane. This is the way the hierarchy establishes itself. This is exactly the way for us to follow the way to develop ourselves and to untap our own potential. This is how Mahat appears. Mahat is understanding universal mind thought. Before it manifests itself as Brahma, Shiva, it appears as Vishnu. Hence, Mahat has several aspects, just like the Logos has. This is Mahat, is the Lord, is the primary creator, Mahatma, the universal mind, and Manas. That Manas was produced and is called as egoism or selfishness, which is born as a feeling of I, the second creation. And Mahat then it transforms into the human Manas and becomes Ahamship. Yet Mahat currently is in the situation of balance, since the creation has not started. Alaya implies three states. This is the soul, mind, and body, which represents unity and balance. Agni Yoga, in the paragraph 221, Rerich describes the highest equilibrium state. And Agni Yoga is the highest equilibrium. As dedicated creative work of fit spirit leads to balance in the global ratio. Therefore, balancing and disagreement between the centers are balanced. The point, the cross of the plane prototypes, means Jesus light, the beginning, a new cycle, and the beginning of the journey. And here you can see this very point here on this slide. So first we have Jesus Christ, which is the beginning of our journey, then the light itself. Alaya is something that gives us the strength to go on to the next plane. Alaya stands for the transformation. Only with Alaya, Alaya can appear. And the key moment of the 9th shloka is the description of the transformation into another plane. The shloka 9 describes the unmanifested state of the 9th creation, the readiness to give an impetus or to start a new cycle or new movement. What is 9? Inside, there are 7 hidden planes of being, and there are 2 in the external space. Let us take a look at these 2 planes. These are Alaya and Anupadaka. These are 2 forces that keep their sublimity, and when the cycle comes, they will become a form of movement. So where was Dharma when the lie of the universe was in the paramartha and the great wheel was anupadaka? Dharma was in a place where there were the builders, the dogmas. It was hidden from us. It was there where the builders were. Dharma was in a place where there was the silence, there was the hearing. So Dharma was hidden in the sublimity of the unmanifested nice creation of the universe, before the universe was created by the builders. It will appear when the fiery purification is over and the fire will be released and the movement will begin. Only the fiery power can give new life at the very last moment. Then Dharma will open its eyes and shows us the secret way that lies behind. At this period, Pralaya and Dharma eye has not been opened yet, because there were no builders, there was no silence and no hearing, and no anupadaka as the only state of the universe existed in the unbeing.
This is the story actually of the combination and relations between the 7 or 10 elements and the most important ideas of the 9th Sloka, stanza 1. Everything that Madame Blavatsky mentioned there, actually every Sloka is key and eternal for understanding of the whole work. We have a look of the whole trajectory, how this state appears of Dharma, how it manifests and its goals and its meaning, how it manifests in the human being, in every human being. We have tried hard to give life to these notions and to apply them to practice as revelations of every feeling in us, in 6 paramitas, in 10 paramitas, how they go through everything. This comprehension is without limits. We talked a lot today about all the notions that Yelena Blavatsky mentioned about Komahata, about the world spirit, and many ideas taken from Sanskrit. We determined how they have an influence on every human being. But each of us can continue our own journey in order to get the secret meaning behind that. And we will discover new facets of every notion. We just tried to approach that and try to show the diversity of the comprehension of the hidden doctrine. We tried to show you the opportunities to understand yourself. This diversity allows us to get just one word every day in order to understand it. The truth becomes absolute only if we can find it in the detail of each word. Take it, purify it, and it will become the revelation of the truth, of the pure fire within us. It is possible. Only human beings can do that through the combination of through their energies and through their manifestation in meditation. That's how Mahat is awakened. That's how the person becomes intelligent human being. And conscious human being. That's how we can approach any notion in the hidden doctrine. That's why we call it a very important work, the fundamental work, because every sloka of every stanza has so much in it. We can try to comprehend it, and we have opportunities to achieve the absolute truth and understand that it is united. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Now we would like to give the floor to the director of Virtual Center, Luke Michael Ironside, and now we would like to give the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say that was most illuminating and an excellent conclusion to the study of the first stanza. And as Eugenia very eloquently stated, in a study of the Secret Doctrine, the truth can be found in every word, which is why we are going through sloka by sloka, stanza by stanza, very carefully, in a lot of depth, in a lot of detail, with a lot of comparison and examination between the different sections in order to dissect, in order to go into each aspect and each hidden meaning, to unveil the variety and layers of meaning that we find within every passage of the Secret Doctrine. Because there is no one singular interpretation that can be taken away from the Secret Doctrine. There's a truth in there which is specific and individual to everyone, and the Secret Doctrine can speak to everyone's individual life. And that's why we are going through, and we are together as a group unveiling those different facets of the truth found within the Secret Doctrine. And so today, by examining the 9th sloka, but where was the Dangma when the Alaya of the universe was in paramartha and the great wheel was anupadaka? We examine today the fact that the Alaya is the soul of the world. Perhaps it could be considered akin to what Emerson, the great poet Emerson, called the oversoul. That which is eternal and changeless on the inner planes, and yet which undergoes periodical changes on the outer planes. So again, a fascinating paradox, something, an essence, which is changeless and yet undergoes change in the realm of manifestation. Paramartha is self-consciousness, or the self-analyzing reflection. It could here be understood as absolute being and consciousness, which are at the same time absolute non-being and unconsciousness. The term anupadaka means parentless, that is, being without any creator, without any progenitors. I'm referring here to the universe as being in its formless, eternal, and absolute condition before the fashioning of differentiated form by the Ahi and the hierarchies of celestial beings. And so what we have essentially examined in this sloka is a summary of the entire stanza, a summary of this condition of non-being, which is absolute being, before the breath of the Logos brought the universe into its fascinating and diverse state of rich variety that we find ourselves in now in our present manifested, evolved human form. And so there are two questions, I think, that we can take away, both to consider, both as questions for self-reflection on this 9th sloka, but also generally for the first stanza. Firstly, how can that which is changeless undergo the periodical process of change? And what has the first stanza revealed to us about that paradox? And secondly, on a more individual, personal level, how do we, as individuals, as persons undergoing this process of evolution, remain inherently changeless, as we at the same time undergo our own personal evolution, both within this life and through the countless reincarnations that have brought us to this present time and place? What is the eternal which underlies the many changing forms of our outer lives? So with those questions, I would like to once again thank the project coordinators for making this possible. We have reached a real milestone today. We have now completed the study of the first stanza, which is an amazing milestone to have reached. And I'd also like to thank the translators for their tireless work in bringing this to a broader audience, an international audience all around the world, and to the technical team who have made this possible through the use of technology, through the use of this platform, again, to reach a global audience. So thank you very much. I look much forward to the next chapter of our group study.
I would like to thank everyone who participated as well. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you for trying to be more attentive here, for bringing new ideas to sharing that. Thank you for this solemn atmosphere. Without it, we would not be able to achieve what we have achieved today. Without this state, it would not be possible. And thank you so much for everything and for peace, for this atmosphere. Dear friends, Luke Michael Ironside, thank you so much. You have a talent to crystallize all the important facts in your conclusive words. So we get the final pattern after all of that. Thank you for that. It's your talent and your advantage. We are very grateful for that. Thank you for our interpreters who helped us today for translation what could not be translated. As when we touch such ephemeral matters, such difficult notions. Thank you so much for participating here. You are contributing to our work, and you are becoming better by understanding the notions that we get there. Thank you to our support team, technical team. I would like to express my gratitude to the technical specialists who create the slides in order to see what we learned on the screen, and we can continue working on that on our individual level. And that would be amazing. That would be our own creations. And we do not accept others' ideas, we just share them, and we nurture our own ideas through that. Dear friends, our next online class will take place on April 14th, and now we are entering a new space, a new environment, I could say. On that day, we will be able to have an overlook on the first stanza, on all the 9 slokas. We will try to understand all of that in one class. And after that, in May, we will move on to the second stanza. So I think it would be a good idea to maybe have a look to review some things from initial stanzas and from initial slokas, in order to review that, in order to have a look at that. We will have our next class. It would be very helpful. I think that the truth will win, and we will achieve peace everywhere. Thank you very much.
До новых встреч. До новых встреч. Будем рады всех
Goodbye.
видеть.
See you soon. Thank you. And your questions are welcome. Do not forget about that. We will be glad to have a. You can write to all of us, and we will be happy to answer your questions. So see you soon. Bye.